What's up everyone, this is K Collections. The time has come to talk about Phil, the teacher of Achilles, Heracles, Jason, and a whole bunch of other famous people being released into the standard summon pool once the Apocrypha event comes. Let's see if the great Chiron is worth your Saint Quartz, cause I'll go over his stats, skills, give some CE, and team recommendations. He has the third lowest attack out of the 4-star archers, higher than Emiya Alter, but lower than Emiya. He does have the third highest HP, matching Emiya Alter. Chiron has really good NP gains, NP gaining multipliers being above average, and Arts Quick Arts can charge about 34% NP. Star gens are a bit on the lower side, coming out at around 15 to 18 stars when using his Buster and Quicks. For active skills, Chiron focuses on offensive support, which also applies to himself, making him an attacker as well. Mind's Eye will be your last priority to max out, as you're just going to save it for emergency survival. His second skill is perfect for crit teams as it provides up to 15 stars, along with a strong crit buff. Chiron is an Arch Servant, not saying he can't mix with others, thanks to his third skill, which I'll go over, but for more synergy, he fits with other Arch Servants, specifically ones that focuses on crit damage. Now, he can be your crit DPS thanks to his naturally high star weights, just depends on what role you want him to play, supporter or attacker. What makes him quite the excellent semi-support unit is the final skill, which you should prioritize. The skill buffs all command cards for one target, which obviously helps everyone. If you're not running an arts team, but let's say a Buster crits, you can have Chiron as a sub-supporter or a temporary buffer, then switch them out. For example, you have Jolter and Merlin. Start with Jolter, Chiron, and one Merlin. Do all your buffs. Chiron buffs all command cards for Jolter, while also giving her 15 stars to use and a boost in crit damage. Switch him out for a support Merlin, and then use his buffs. If you have Helena, Chiron plays a similar role to her, where it's a boost and switch strategy, although he himself can be a damage dealer if you want. How he can be a damage dealer is with his crit and his Noble Phantasm. NP damage isn't that powerful, but what makes it reliable is the removal of defensive buffs like invincibility, guts, defense up, and so on. It applies before the damage, meaning his attack will hit. It's also a strong first NP chain attack, since removing the buffs will allow the rest to hit. Second reason why his NP makes him reliable is the spamming potential it has. With an NP Arts Brave chain, he can charge around 40%, a lot with his third skill applied to himself, and of course crit damage. So in terms of damage output, it may not be the most powerful, but constantly hitting a target with repeated NP attacks is another way to be a damage dealer. For C recommendations, focus on Arts Crit or NP damage. Another ending is perfect. Emerald Float will be out this summer 3, which can help with his NP strength. Now, if you want him to play a more supportive role, a CE that gives passive stars in return will help a lot. You can also focus on NP gains for faster spamming attacks. Tranquility helps with his overall deck. You can also use Orange Jet for NP gains and damage, but I'd prefer Summer Little a bit more since he will crit often. Again, Chiron can basically fit into any team composition if you use him as a support servant. Specifically, the buff and switch method. For example, if you have a double Scotty for Achilles or Dantes, remember you can always start with Chiron, buff the servant, then switch out for a Scotty or Merlin or whoever. But let's talk about servants that can support him. Holmes is one of the best Arts Crit supporter for Chiron. The constant NP spamming between the two servants will allow Chiron to remove defense buffs, followed by insane stat crit damage. If the time comes, Holmes himself can be a strong burst crit DPS servant since he has a star absorption for one turn, which means Chiron can buff Sherlock's command cards. So there's a solid synergy between the two. But there is a huge problem. You will need a very strong star generator, as both servants aren't consistent enough. There are a few choices. Preferably, you want skills that can give you passive stars for a few turns so that you can concentrate on charging NPs through crit damage instead of trying to generate more stars through attacks. Behold Anderson, who is one of the best. You can also buff a lot of things with him, crit damage being one of them. His low star weight also allows the other two servants to absorb more stars. A more offensive servant compared to Anderson is Salieri. He provides less support but can deal more damage compared to Anderson. His low star weight will help Chiron's absorption as well. The thing is, your damage output in general will be low with this team. That is why your crit damage will make up for it. So it's very important for you to have stars to begin with, making 2030 extremely vital. Whoever your attacker is, equip an offensive CE, but the other two must have 2030s. Of course, we cannot forget about Fox Waifu. She helps with NP and skill spamming, as well as offering a very nice arts boost. So my final thoughts on Chiron. He plays both roles as a supporter or damage dealer. Realize I said or, not and. You want to decide right away which role you want him to play. Not saying you can't switch roles in battle, but it's better to prioritize and set up properly for one role rather than flip-flop during a fight. He becomes a master of nothing if you want him to do everything at once. Basically, do you want to build a team around him or a team around someone else using him to help? The reason being is that his best skill has a 3-turn downtime, which is great for whoever you choose to use the skill on first, but that means if you intend to switch targets, it's a 6-turn wait. For example, if you use his 3rd skill on himself to kill a Saber sub-boss, that means your main DPS servant needs to wait quite a while before receiving his buff, whereas if Chiron just focuses on one target, they'll have better consistency. Whether he's supporting or attacking, his crit skill and NP is very helpful regardless. His NP sets up for follow-up attacks by removing defensive buffs, and he's quite the NP spammer himself. He can also survive NP attacks, which is highly appreciated. Just 2 more weaknesses to be aware of. His damage output is not great. Add on his low damage modifier, Chiron may not be the best attacker for neutral enemies. Second thing to be aware of, if you're using him as a supporter, his high star weight may interfere with your DPS servant as you want them to take the stars instead. That's the reason why I would recommend Combat Uniform to switch him out. Overall, Chiron is a great servant. Having him will help you a lot. He is one of the most flexible servants you can have. Just throw him into any team and he'll do his job. Now, he's like Helena a bit in terms of usability. Chiron is going to be your sub-supporter most of the time. He's not a farmer, so you'll have him as a buff and switch for farming, which is like 85% of this game. Now, if you already have all the elite caster supporters, then you don't really need him. For example, if you can already use a double Merlin or double Scotty plus a Waver combo, then Chiron isn't really necessary. But if NP battery isn't something you need for the battle, I would actually take Chiron over Waver because this buff in command cards is a bit more helpful offensively instead of just buffing attack, but with such a slight change, it isn't worth killing your wallets over. Now, if you don't have all the elite casters, for example, I only have a Merlin, and Helena has been my Waver sub for the longest time, then I absolutely recommend Chiron. Or, if you need a good archer with utility, again, I would recommend him. Chiron's team flexibility makes him a great addition to anyone's Chaldea. So I'm curious, what's your 1-turn kill strategy? For me, it's either Raiko or Coup Alter, depending on how many enemies there are, double Merlin, mine having the Team Buster buff CE, switch out for Helena, typically having 100% NP ready, which I'll use first to lower defense and increase the DPS servant's overcharge, like Coup Alter, which increases NP damage further. But what's your strategy? A tremendous thanks to all my patrons for supporting me. If you want to support my channel, check out my Patreon or channel membership. Well, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, hit that thumbs up and subscribe to my channel for more Fates content. Follow me on Twitter, Instagram, and join my Discord server. All links are in the description. Have an awesome day, everyone. Till next time.